Okay, so let's go over here first of all our learning goals. I can use formulas involving variables, so that's what we're going to be working with today, our equations called formulas. And then I can use substitution to replace variables with values. So we're going to have formulas that have more than one variable involved in them, and we're going to substitute into them for some values that they're going to give us, and then we're going to find the one that is missing. Okay? So let's start with this activity 1. It says use the squares on the grid to help measure the shapes. Take over reading for me, Kira.
Use the squares on the grid to help measure the shapes. Find the area of each shape using the appropriate formula. Label the answer in square units.
Okay, so we have 3 formulas there. We have the formula for finding the area of a rectangle, the formula for finding the area of a triangle, and the formula for finding the area of a circle. So let's start with number 1. Looks like we have a circle to work with. So we are supposed to find its area. Remember, it says use the drawing to help you get some measurements. So we're going to count. So find the length of, we're going to count, they're going to be called units. How long is the radius of that circle, known as little r? Let's give it a length. How long is the radius for that circle? Who's got it? Cheyenne? 4. Okay, so we're going to say the r value is 4 units. So 1, 2, 3, 4 units long, okay? To find the area of a circle, we're going to write the formula. We're going to, instead of writing the words area, we're going to write capital A for area equals, we need a circle, so it's 3.14 times r squared. What does r squared mean? What does that mean, r squared? Idea? Pardon? Radius squared, okay, and what does radius squared mean? Wait.
The radius times itself.
The radius times itself. Take the radius times itself, take the r value times itself. So another way to write this, let's do it right here. Another way to think of this is we can break that r squared into an r times r. Okay, so area equals, we're going to do a substitution step because we know how long r is, right? We're going to put what in for r? 4. So we have times 4 times 4. Okay, we've been doing lots of multiplying with decimals, so let's go over here off to the side and let's take 3 1400 times 4. Okay, get that one multiplied out. What is 3 1400 times the first 4? Tell me what you get. Got it, Kira? What is it?
12.56.
Okay, everyone should have gotten 12.56. Anybody want to disagree? Okay, so we are replacing basically then, we're going to take this 3.14 times 4. That's what we just did. We did that multiplication, and now that we say is 12.56. And now there's still a times 4 left that we have to bring down. So now we get to do some more multiplication. Now we're going to take our 12 5600ths times 4 and see what we get. Anybody got it? You do, Wade? What is it?
70 and 2400.
I think you're kind of close with the part of it, but not the one part of it. Sam? 50 and 2400s is what we should get. We should be 50.24. 50 and 2400s. And now we're going to give a label to that. We found the area. We are saying that the area of this circle is 50 and 2400ths, not units, but units squared. And we don't put the squared on the number. We put the squared on the label, on the units, yeah. So let's circle that, that's our final answer. We were supposed to find the area of that circle. Okay, questions? Anybody know what area means? Here?
Times perimeter.
Area is not times.
Approximately double. You're adding the total numbers and times in the total.
Kind of, but what does actual area mean? I don't care if we're talking about a circle or a rectangle or a triangle. What are we finding when we're finding area? Anybody know what that means? Sylvia?
What's inside?
Is there an inside a circle, kind of? Is a circle three-dimensional or two-dimensional? Two-dimensional. It's two-dimensional. It's flat, right? It's two-dimensional. So a circle is two-dimensional, so we're figuring out what? Well, sometimes we're taking length times width, but what is the actual area? We're finding how much, when you say what's inside of it, we're saying how much would it take to cover it? We're talking about, how many squares it would take to cover that particular circle. So if we just found this to be 50 and 2400s right now, when we count inside this circle, if you actually counted all of the circles and tried to piece together the parts of circles, altogether there should be 50 and about 1/4 of another one, okay? So we need to kind of have an understanding of it. What is it that we're trying to actually find? Anybody got questions? Okay, let's move on to the triangle problem then. Okay, number 2, it says base equals and height equals. In other words, they said, remember they told us to count squares. Length by the squares. Okay, so go ahead, figure out the base and the height of this triangle. How long is that base and how tall is that triangle? Okay, who's got the length of the base for me? Okay, 8. Okay, everybody agree with them? Yeah? Okay, how about the height of that triangle? Wait. 6, everybody agree with him? Okay, so if we are in agreement on that,
Or 7.
I think I might want to disagree.
I think it's
Okay, it goes from, sometimes it's easier to count along the sides of it, right? So from the top, okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I get 8. Anybody else get 8?
I counted.
Yeah, I think we need an 8 there. So we first of all want to make sure we get good measurements, right? Okay, now, how do we find the area of a triangle? Well, area is a capital A. Harley, how do we find the area of a triangle? 1/2 times the base times the height. So we're first going to write out our formula. This is called a formula. It's got more than one variable involved in it, doesn't it? How many variables does it have? No, how many? It has 3. It has a capital A for area, it has a little b for base length, and it has a little h for height. Okay? So now we're going to sub in what we know. What do we know? Well, we're looking for the area. We don't know that. And we know that the base is how long? 8. And the height is how high? No, we know it. 8, not h. I mean, maybe you said 8, and I thought you said h. Okay. So now we're going to work in pieces here. What's half of 8? 4. And 4 times 8 is? 32. The area of this triangle is 32 what? Units squared. Units squared. So we will circle that as our final answer. So questions on that one at all? No? Okay, then let's move on to the rectangle. figure out the base length of this rectangle, the height of this rectangle. How many units? Kaylee, do you have one of them for me? And which one? IKEA? Which one?
Base is
Base is 5. Okay, everybody agree with her? Anybody want to change her mind? Okay, how about the height? What's the height? Sierra? 7. Okay, everybody agree with Sierra? You got a height of 7? You go with that? Okay. How do we find the area of a rectangle? What would the formula look like? How do we write the formula for the area of the rectangle? How do we write it, Carly? Capital A equals base times little b for base times height, little h for height. Okay. We're looking for the area. We don't know it. We know the base is what? 5. We know the height is 7. So we can multiply right away. 5 times 7 is
35.
35, and these are units squared. Okay. Okay, again, tell me, what does that mean? What does 35 units squared mean? How many squares it takes to what?
just a
Cover the rectangle. That is what dimension? 2-dimensional. Okay, so if we counted up squares, there should be 35 of them. It would take 35 squares to cover that rectangle. Okay, let's go to the back side. Okay, now they're going to challenge us a little bit more. Substitute the values for the variables in each of the formulas and solve for the missing part. So our first one is a triangle. It says the area of the triangle is 10 square inches. That's another way of writing inches squared. We can use the word square in front of inches. We're going to write right now then that that means our capital A is 10. I want you to write that. Capital A is 10. We're going to identify all the things we know. It says, what is the length of the base? Well, we look in the picture and we can see that we don't know what the base is doing. So what are we going to call it then? We're going to call it B. We're going to call it B. Do we know the height? We don't?
all you ever do.
It's right here, isn't it? Isn't this the height?
Yeah.
The height equals what? H equals 5. I want you to write that like I did. I want you to identify all the things we know and what we don't know, all the things that are going to be important to help us find the information they want us to get. They want us to get the length of the base. So we're going to, let's just go right over here. They've already written the formula for us. Let's go substitute in the things we know. Do we know capital A? What can we put in for capital A? 10. The area is 10. This is called showing work. You write the formula down first. They already did it for us, bless their hearts. And now we're substituting. So you have to show the substitution step. 1/2 is 1/2. We're not going to change that. Do we know the B? Oh, really? Okay. So then what are we going to put? B. Okay. And then do we know the H?
Yes.
Yeah. What is it?
5.
5. Okay. Well, that looks a little tricky. We got to find B. So I want us to put like a box around this right here. This is what we call our, and I want you to write this off to the side. What, we're looking for what, we're looking for what number times 5 is 10. That's really what this is saying. What number times 5 is 10? So we have to figure out what you would take times 5 to get 10, first of all. What would you take times 5 to get 10? 2. So we need that 1/2 B to equal 2, don't we? Okay, so let's just say that right here. We basically need this to equal 2. So what would we have to take half of to get to? What would we have to take half of to get to? 4, yeah. So if we took 1/2 times 4, we would get that 2. And 2 times 5 is 10. Yeah, and 2 times 5 is 10. So what's the length of our base? Right here, you better circle that. This is the important part, right here. It is 4, and what are we going to call it? What's its label?
Inches.
Inches. If the height is measured in inches, so is the base measured in inches. It is 4 inches. The base is 4 inches long. Okay. So let's finish this off like this. Let's do this. We needed it to be 2, and we have to take that 2 times the 5, and that gives us 10. And so this is what we had to do to figure out how to get to. Let's put this in a box. We had to take half of 4. That gives us that 2 that we need, and then we can say that the length of our base is 4. Now, if you can come up with that easier way to get the answer, you can, but you have to show me work. You still just have to support your answer, okay? If something else makes more sense to you, then use it, but make sure that I see your support for your answer, okay? Questions on that one? Okay, we got a parallelogram. And it says to find the area of a parallelogram, you take, just like you do for a rectangle, you take the base times the height. The difference with it is the height is not one of the sides of when it's not a rectangle, it's not one of the sides of the rectangle, it's either inside, or we could also talk about it outside. But do we know the height? No, so let's call that h. Do we know the area? Yes, what is it? 30, let's write that down. What else do we know? The base. We know that the base is 10. Okay, that covers all of them. A, B, H, doesn't it? What are we going to put in for A? 30. What are we going to put in for B? 10. What are we going to put in for H?
H.
H, because we don't know what it is. We need to find the missing number. What's the missing number? H equals 3. Okay, so let's put that over here. H equals 3. And let's prove that it actually works. 10 times 3. What is 10 times 3? 30. So it does work, doesn't it? So we can say that we believe the height is 3, and what would its label be? Is height measured in squares? It's measured in sides of squares, isn't it? Inches, yeah. Inches. Are height and base one-dimensional or two-dimensional? What is the base length? What is the height? Danny, look at me. What's the base length and what's the height? Is it one-dimensional or two-dimensional, class? A length is one-dimensional. A height is one-dimensional. You put them together to form a figure and find area, and now it becomes two-dimensional. Okay, so we need to have an understanding why we label things what we do. Okay, we got a triangle. It says the area of the triangle is 8 square inches. What did they just tell us? A. So we're going to write A equals. What is the height? So we're looking for H, aren't we? What is that 8, this other 8 representing? The base. This is our base. B equals 8. So now we'll do what's that step called next? Into our formula. This is our formula that we write down, but they've already done it for us. What are we going to do now? What's this step called? What's with an S? No, we're not solving. It's over in our learning goal. Second learning goal, we're substituting, so we're putting 8 in for capital A for area. We're putting, what in for B?
8.
An 8, another 8. What are we putting in for H? H, we don't know what H is, do we? Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to actually multiply this. What's half of 8? 4. So this becomes now 8 equals 4 times H. 8 equals, our box became 4 times H. Now we just ask ourselves what times 4 is it? Is 8. 2. So H equals 2. So 8, let's check it out. 4 times 2, and 4 times 2 is 8. It works. So our answer is 2 what?
Inches squared.
One-dimensional. Just inches. Just inches. They're not squares, they're just inches. Did I? Oh, I sure did. Thanks.
You tricked me.
I know, I tricked myself. Okay, let's put it where it belongs, huh? Okay, thanks for catching that for me. Questions on that one? We got one to do, and then we're done. Okay, I want you to try this one totally on your own. Everything you would need to show for work when you're doing these problems, I want you to show like we've been doing. Okay, tell me some of the things. Let's start talking about some of the things your paper says. You give me something. Give me one thing you wrote down for this problem. Katie,
A equals B times 3.
you put what?
A equals B times 3.
A equals B times 3. Like right there? Why'd you do that? Is there,
Because we don't know base and height is 3.
okay, and you're telling me we don't know what the A then is either, huh? We don't, huh? Okay. What do you think, Sam? What's one thing you have down?
A is 27.
A is 27. It says right here the area of the rectangle is 27 square inches. So we know A, don't we? We need to write that down. A equals 27. Somewhere we should have that down. Okay, what's another thing we should have down? Wait.
27 equals B times 3.
So in other words, right away we could have substituted a 27 for A and not even had to have an A there, right? Okay, that's one thing we could have. Give me something else that should be written down. Give me another thing that should be on your papers. I want to hear some new voices. I'm going to call on you. Kira?
27 equals B times 3.
Okay. We have that one right here, okay? Right there.
27 equals 9 times 3.
Okay, so you're saying that B should be 9 because 27 should be equal to 9 times 3, right?
Yes.
And is 9 times 3 27, class?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So we should have all of that, okay? What else should we have? Cheyenne, what's another thing we should have?
Put an H by 3.
Put an H by 3, we should say that H is equal to 3, right? Yeah, okay, what's another thing we should be showing? Still something missing. Still something missing. Paikia? A B for the question mark, right? Okay, anything else? Okay, so now we're ready to give the answer, and the answer is 9 inches. Square inches or inches?
Inches.
Inches. This is a length, not a number of squares. Okay. Okay. So any quick questions or concerns? Make sure you have all of those things before you say once you're done. All of those are important parts of your work for these problems when you do them. Okay. No concerns? Okay. Doesn't look like you need this anymore.